Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our presentation, Tools to Accelerate Your Research. My name is Duran Wilson, and I am a program lead with the Clinical and Translational Science Institute at Children's National. And I'm very excited to be here with you today to showcase some of the tools that we support that will help you with your research, both with design as well as with the conduct of your research. So let's go ahead and get started. What we always like to begin with is an introduction to the CTSI-CN, or the Clinical and Translational Science Institute, because some of you may not be aware of what we do and may not have worked with us before, but we are your research support center. We're led by Dr. Lisa Gay Woodford, who is our director. We're also co-directed by Dr. Reamer Bushart, and our administrative director is Patrick O'Keefe. And what we are is a specific research institute that's focused on making catalytic change in clinical research at the local hub level. So we are partnered with GW, and I'll explain that a little bit later and how that partnership works. But we're partnered to really transform the way that we conduct research, to try to catalyze and bring research from bench to bedside quicker and more efficiently. We're funded by NIH through the Clinical and Translational Science Award, which is a very prestigious award offered to about 55 medical institutions. And each of these institutions partners with other local institutions to create a hub. And as I mentioned, we're partnered with GW. So we have a partnership between Children's National Hospital and the George Washington University. We were established in 2010, and we worked for several years to kind of ramp up our research institute and provide services to our researchers. We were fortunate enough to be refunded in July 2016 in version 2, where we focused on advancing CTR, clinical and translational research, with a particular emphasis on child health. And we're really focused on innovative approaches and enhancing capabilities in 5 strategic areas, specifically workforce development, collaboration and engagement, integration, methods and processes, and informatics. We also are currently in the process of renewing for version 3 of CTSI-CN, where we're going to continue to provide support to our investigators and providers, enable them with resources and tools that can help support them in these very specific domains. We're also going to kind of hone in on empowering patients and communities as well. And at the core of that, we're going to be promoting health equity in clinical and translational research. So as you can see here, there's many domains in which we support our investigators and our research staff. And I will explain how we do so here in the next slide. So as I mentioned at the top of this presentation, we are your research support center. We are here for you. We're here for our investigators and our research staff at Children's National and GW. And we're here for you in providing support and resources and guidance across the research lifecycle to really help you, with your research and help you get from bench to bedside quicker. We focus on education through our online graduate programs. So we have graduate programs in clinical and translational research. There's also a certificate program. We also provide seminars and workshops across many domains, many areas. We also support study design. So we support a number of recruitment tools, data management and data analysis tools, as well as support with biostatistics and informatics. You may be familiar with BIRD, or the Biostatistics, Epidemiology, and Research Design team at Children's. That falls under the CTSI. We also support the conduct of research. So the clinical research unit on the 3rd floor at the main hospital is supported by the CTSI-CN. We also support a number of informatics tools to help you leverage our EHR data and leverage data to help you with cohort discovery, also with recruitment. And then we also are engaged with many collaborators and partners across the country. Through the CTSA, we are engaged with hubs all across the country. And we also have partnerships with industry that we can utilize to help support our researchers. And then once the research has been conducted, we also are very focused on helping you disseminate the knowledge that you and the science that you've put together. So we support the Science Cafe, which is a wonderful event where the community gets to interact with researchers and providers, and they get to have open, informal discussions about particular research topics. We also provide community consultations so that if an investigator needs to, before they even begin their study, kind of get some ideas about their protocol and the type of research that they're doing from their community, We have many leading experts in the community and many community members that can help give you ideas, that can help you refine your protocol. And we're also partnered with a youth advisory network called ICANN, where we can do the same thing, but with the youth of our DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So by way of accelerating research, the first question you probably have is, why do I need to accelerate my research? And the simple answer to that is that delays can really be fatal to research. Research is growing to be very complex, and it requires careful planning, development, and execution. And when targets aren't met and when things fall through the cracks, it can really damage the research that you're conducting. It can even damage things far beyond that. Additionally, research requires collaboration. So as research is becoming more collaborative, we're having to engage not just with internal partners like grants and contracts and OPHS and research compliance, but also with external partners, collaborators at other institutions, industry. And oftentimes when those collaborations grow and we're dealing with many people, that can cause delays in communication, which can really be challenging to your research. And then also, what we've discovered is that poorly designed and executed studies can often underperform, which leads to delays. It can lead to under-enrollment, and in the worst case, it can lead to suspension or termination of your study. In a recent project and study from Aventura Clinical Sciences from December 2017, an estimated 85% of all clinical trials will experience delays, with 94% being delayed greater than 1 month. And even locally, we've seen some of that. In a recent report from our clinical trials office, we learned that 48% of clinical trial sites under-enroll study participants, many just enrolling 0 or 1 patients and not reaching their enrollment goals. And this can actually be very costly, not just to the PI, but also to the institution. It can be financially costly, and the cost can sometimes exceed $1 million annually. So delays with your research can be tremendously difficult to deal with and can really be challenging. And they can actually slow down the entire research ecosystem at the institution. So it's really important that we meet these challenges and that we try to mitigate these delays. And most importantly, we want to do so because they increase the risk of bad science. So when we accelerate our research, what that'll hopefully lead to is fewer barriers to the conduct of research. It'll mitigate unnecessary delays and underperformance. It'll prevent waste. So we're not wasting time, we're not wasting effort, we're not losing funding. It could also help preserve the reputation of the PI and the institution, and it'll improve our contributions to science. So it's very imperative. So the next question you may have is, well, we've defined the issue, but how can I accelerate my research? And that's where the CTSI-CN comes in. The CTSI-CN supports researchers by providing a number of tools and platforms that help them with the design and conduct of their research. And the great thing is that access to these resources is provided at both Children's National and GW, often at no cost. So oftentimes these resources require no cost. They're very accessible and easy to get started with. And we really focus on the research life cycle, the entire research process. We want to help you with design, with development of grants and proposals, with preparation and execution of the study, and also with data collection. And so today we'll talk about a few tools that can really help you with accelerating your research, with protocol development with Protocol Builder, with data management with Redcap, cohort discovery and feasibility with Trinetics, where we can leverage our EHR data to really understand some insights behind our patient population and help define certain cohorts for research. And then also now we have this access to these large data enclaves and these data sets. And that includes NIH's N3C initiative, as well as their All of Us initiative, and then also big data extracts such as PEadsnet. And there's a few other projects that we'd like to talk about today that we're really excited about and we think will really help you. Let's begin with Protocol Builder. So Protocol Builder is a helpful tool for writing protocols, and this is for investigator-initiated studies. It exists in a secure cloud-based application, which is web accessible. It can be accessed anywhere, no matter where you are, as long as you have internet. And it's really designed to help you write your protocols faster and easier. Many investigators come to us and they have tremendous challenges with writing a protocol. They tell us that they really don't know what format to use, that they really don't have a template, and that it's really difficult. And oftentimes they're relegated to having to share protocols with colleagues and kind of rewrite and edit. And oftentimes that leads to errors in your protocol, which often are discovered when you submit it to the IRB, and then they reply with a bunch of contingencies. So this tool is really designed to help give you that format that you need. There's 16 protocol templates built in, ranging from observational to interventional to QA, QI, repository, socio-behavioral. So there's quite a few templates in there, and they're all designed to meet federal and industry regulatory standards. Within the platform, you also have expert guidance. So there'll be a description of what type of information should be in each section, and they'll even give you examples, which is tremendously helpful, especially if you're an early career investigator. There's also smart forms with branching logic. So oftentimes when you're writing a protocol, there's areas where information will be duplicated or you'll need to enter similar information twice. Protocol Builder actually predicts that and puts that information in the appropriate place, so you don't have to spend time copying and pasting and perhaps getting lost in the copy and paste game. There's also a reference builder in Protocol Builder. So if you're using Zotero or other reference software solutions, you can automatically upload all of your references. So it makes it much easier than using Microsoft Word, where it can be a little challenging. Additionally, there's a resource center where commonly used research forums and supporting documentation and guidance documents that are provided by NIH, by FDA, and other bodies are provided, so it can help you have all those in one platform. You don't have to go around to multiple websites and get them all over the place. And then another very new feature is that they have added investigator training modules. And this is particularly for residents that are conducting research or early career investigators, where they'll help you better understand how research should be conducted and what type of information should be in a protocol. And because the company that created Protocol Builder, Brainy, owns City Training, which we're all very familiar with, we're doing it every couple years, they offer a research design course for free. So if you've never designed a research study, you don't even know how to write a protocol, there's a free course that's accessible to all Protocol Builder clients that you can access. The other great thing about Protocol Builder is that it's collaborative. So you can work with internal collaborators, external collaborators, as long as they have an email address and they have access to your project, which you'll give them. They can access Protocol Builder and they can help with writing, they can help with editing, they can put field comments and notes. So it's a really great environment, especially if you're having some challenges with writing your protocol. Accessing it is very simple. You simply go to the website, and because we have single sign-on, you don't even have to create a username or password. You just simply are allowed to log right in. This is the user interface, very simple, very easy to understand. Starting a new protocol is as simple as selecting that icon. You'll also notice in the middle, you have all the protocols that you've written there so that they're easily accessible. And then if you get confused while you're in the platform, they have featured tips and videos to help you and help guide you as you're working with the platform. Once you select that icon, you're going to be taken here where you'll see all the different protocol types that you can access. And if you're not sure what type of protocol to write, you just kind of have an idea and you're not really sure, there's a tool there that will use an algorithm to help you select which type of protocol you should be working in. Protocol Builder includes a number of features, including a dashboard, so you know exactly how much you've completed of each section, which is really important because we've talked to investigators who've written protocols, submitted to the IRB, and then found out that maybe their synopsis wasn't complete, or their background wasn't complete, or their endpoints weren't finished. And so that can be problematic and cause those significant delays that we discussed earlier. So there's a dashboard to help you with that. Additionally, here's the user interface for when you're writing a protocol. You'll notice on the left that you have all of the different sections outlined and very simple. You can toggle between them. You can work on, perhaps your secondary objectives or your primary outcomes. And then if you're still trying to figure that out, you can skip to other sections such as your rationale, study objectives, study design, and so forth. So it's really easy to use. You also notice that there's these red icons there. Those are your expert guidance icons, which I'll show an example of later. But everything is really designed for you to have all these resources at hand to help you write your protocol. There's also embedded editing tools, which are very common. They look very much like what you would see in Microsoft Word and other platforms, but they allow for the addition of abbreviations, glossary terms, footnotes, tables, and all of that is saved. Once you create it, you can easily just import it into another section. Additionally, here you'll see the reference builder. So once you import a reference from Zotero or whatever reference management software you're using, it uploads right up and you can make any of the references you want. You'll see on the left some of the expert guidance. So this example is adverse events, and you'll see that it defines what an adverse event is. It defines what you should be describing in this section. And in many cases, it'll actually give you examples of the type of content that you want to put into that section. So it's tremendously helpful. Again, to make sure you don't miss any steps, there's a final checklist so that you actually have to go through your protocol and make sure that you've written every section and that when you export it, you know for certain that it's complete. Here are some of the features for defining those collaborators and working with them. There's a contact list where you'll see users who are working within our individual platform here at Children's National, or if you're using it at GW there. And then you also can define different user roles. So if you want somebody to be a co-writer, they'll have freedom to write in any section. And the great thing is that you both can be working in Protocol Builder at the same time. As long as you're not writing in the exact same section, Protocol Builder will automatically save each section and two people or more can write at the same time. You can also select a reviewer. So if you just simply have somebody who's maybe a mentor, or if you have a collaborator who isn't so much going to be a writer, maybe it's a statistician and they just want to review the section, you have that as well. And when you've completed your protocol, there's an organized professional output. You can output to PDF or Word. At Children's National, we prefer Word because the IRB wants to review it. They may make edits or recommended edits or have contingencies, but you can export easily to both formats. And if you need to make changes, you can actually go back into Protocol Builder and it'll track all of your changes so that when you resubmit, you have a log of all of the changes that you've made, and you'll be able to refer back to previous versions. So it's a really powerful tool, and it's tremendously helpful when you're designing a research study and you really aren't quite sure what sections you need. It's really a helpful tool. The next tool that we'll discuss is Redcap, and Redcap is easily our most utilized tool. We have well over 4,000 users between Children's and GW, and that's growing every week. And what Redcap is it's a secure web-based application for building and managing online surveys and databases. It's fast, it's flexible, it has a very easy to use interface, and if you have no database management or coding experience, it's really helpful because there are tutorials and it walks you through every step of the way. It also includes a number of in-platform applications. So when you're doing research and you're collecting this data through your surveys or through your data collection efforts, oftentimes with other platforms, it's really challenging because you have this data and then you have to go through the work of manipulating it and shaping it so that a statistician can work with it. Redcap does that automatically. So it can export to formats for data analysis, including Excel, R, SAS, Data, SPSS, and others. So it's really helpful, and our statisticians in the Bird division really appreciate it. It's been really helpful to all of us. There's also ad hoc reporting. So say you're a research coordinator and you're using Redcap to collect data and your PI wants to have weekly reports. They want to see what's happening with the surveys. They want to see trends that are happening. You can actually do ad hoc reporting, including graphs, including plots, charts, and things like that. So it's really helpful to get quick snapshots of data. There's also automated survey delivery. So if you're using surveys, particularly if you're using them for longitudinal studies, you can actually schedule the delivery of them. So you don't have to send them through Outlook. It's all done within Redcap, and you can send them very quickly, very efficiently, and it's automated. So you only have to go back in and check to make sure it was done. You don't have to actually actively be there to send them out. When you are sending surveys, if you don't want to use that option with the contact list, you can create a survey link that you can share, via your personal, your work email or via a flyer or something like that. And it also even creates QR codes. So disseminating your surveys is really helpful as well. And I don't have this on the slide, but there's also an app. So if you need to do offline data collection, say you're doing research in a remote area, you can actually utilize this app, collect all of the data through the tablet, through mobile, and once you connect to Wi-Fi, it'll then push all of that information into your project. So it's a tremendously helpful tool. There's other tools embedded. such as auto-validation, calculated fields, the ability to upload files so that if you're collaborating with folks who are working in the same project, they all have access to the same files. Maybe it's your investigator brochure, maybe it's your protocol, maybe it's other documents, they will have access to that. There's also branching logic. So you can make surveys that are extensive and really long, but when you use branching logic, it actually shortens it, which improves the experience for the respondent. There's also survey stop actions. And if you need to connect your survey to some other application, there is API. And if you're interested in that and trying to utilize other platforms in addition to this and having them connect, we can talk to you about how that works. Redcap is designed to be HIPAA compliant, and it does have user rights controls. It does have audit trails, data security, tracking. So it's really helpful. If you have questions about this, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to walk you through the security parameters, but it's a tremendously helpful tool. I mentioned earlier that you can do data entry forms for surveys. Examples of data entry forms might be a demographics page, an adverse events page, medication. You can actually do your research within Redcap. And some folks are actually actively collecting it in Redcap. They have Redcap and the data entry form pulled up on their tablet. And when the coordinators and the investigators meet with the patients, they're actually putting that information directly into Redcap. Same with surveys. There's many things you can do there. Pre-feasibility studies, site selection, satisfaction surveys. We've even had people that are using this to review candidates for interviews. So if they have multiple people interviewing somebody, they can put their reviews through Redcap. The great thing about Redcap is that not only can you create surveys and have data entry forms, you can actually have both in the same project. So if you're doing a comprehensive study or a comprehensive project, you can utilize both of those and it will all be placed into the Redcap database. So it's very efficient and very robust. Here's an example of what you would see in Redcap. These are the different types of fields that you can add, and you can see that there's a plethora of them. There's text boxes, calculated fields, multiple choice, check boxes, yes, no, true, false. And the great thing about this is if you are utilizing various fields, they're coded. So yes might be coded as 1, no is 0. All of these are coded so that when you pass that data to your statistician, it's in an organized format that they're going to be used to dealing with, and it's going to be more efficient for your data analysis. You also have the ability to look at all of your records throughout time. So this is a particular record for patient 1, and this is a study that involves a pre-screening and some monitoring and some other items. You can actually look and see what was completed. You can see if things have not been completed. So it's tremendously helpful to give you an overview of your project as well. The Redcap is tremendously helpful. We have access to that at Children's National and GW. In fact, we have a very new instance at GW. So if you're interested in any of those platforms, you can, of course, reach out to us and we'll be able to share more information about that and get you connected to those tools. Next, we're going to move on to our cohort discovery tools, tools that help us leverage EHR data. The most prominent tool that we have is Trinetics, which is a dynamic data-driven platform that'll help you with that cohort discovery. When you're writing a protocol, if you're not quite sure what your patient population should be, or you're not even sure that your patient population exists, looking at EHR data locally and abroad can really help you hone in on the population that you want to study. Additionally, it can help you with feasibility. So maybe you're trying to develop your inclusion-exclusion criteria. Well, Trinetics rather, will help you with that by letting you test out different theories, letting you test out different inclusion-exclusion criteria to see if that affects a patient population. And additionally, Trinetics has onboard data analysis tools, which are very helpful. As I mentioned, it's a dynamic data-driven platform, and it does many things. But for our purposes today, the most important aspect of it is the query builder. And Query Builder allows an investigator to independently perform feasibility searches. You don't have to go to a statistician. You don't have to go to an informatics expert. Within minutes, you can get into this tool and start playing with it and do your own cohort discovery and feasibility searches. And that includes things such as diagnosis criteria, ICD-10 codes, procedures, medications, labs, and many, many other items. It is de-identified, so you're not going to be able to see any patient PHI. You're not going to be able to link back to patients or identify them. We are working on a future state program with an honest broker so that if you should need to do that, we'll have a defined process that's approved by research compliance and with the IRB so that you can do so. And that's actually in beta right now. We're kind of working on that right now. But the data is de-identified, it's aggregate, and you can do a tremendous amount of analysis, which I'll show you in a sample in just a moment. Additionally, Trinetics has partnerships with industry. So we actually receive industry studies through Trinetics as well, because pharma and CRO are able to see our de-identified data. Keep in mind, it's not identified. There's no way for them to trace it back to the patient, but they can see our de-identified data and offer us research study opportunities that we then field out to investigators. So it also helps us drive industry research as well. Going back to how it may support you with your research, there's data not just from our institution, but also 120 healthcare organizations from around the world, including pediatric hospitals. And this is in 19 different countries represented in North and South America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia Pacific. And collectively, there's data for over 250 million combined patients. And that's 70 billion, with a B, clinical facts. So there's a tremendous amount of data within Trinetics. There's also third-party claims data from insurance and also from pharmacy. It is de-identified as well, but it can help you kind of look for treatment pathways and look for other aspects of data with patients that are here locally and abroad. And then also there's a tremendous COVID-19 research network with 93 million patients in it. So it's a really helpful tool. This is the user interface. You can see that we have access to many networks, not just our own institution, but to research networks, to regional networks in different areas all around the world, also to very specific networks, some of which I'll describe in just a moment. So the best way to describe Trinetics probably is to just show you an example. And this is actually an example that I cooked up this morning involving pediatric asthma and COVID. So as this plays, I'll walk you through it and kind of describe the user interface and what's happening. So you'll see here, we're in the user interface and we've defined the study that we want to do. The first thing we're going to do is select our network. And so for this, we're focusing on Children's National. We want to look at just our data. The next thing we want to do is define the age range for these patients. So for this particular study, we want to look at 5 to 15-year-olds. So we simply place this in here. You can see Trinetics is automatically updating the distribution of patients that we have, and now that's set. Now we want to add our criteria. You simply can type the term asthma, and all of the codes will drop down. You select the one that's appropriate for this query. And next, maybe we also want to look at COVID. And so we don't use the term, maybe we use the code. So we're looking at the ICD-10 code, and we type that in, and it instantly finds it. Now we've applied that. But say we want to look at these patients in the last 2 years, not currently. We can also add temporal events and time constraints by simply accessing this feature here. And we can say, we want to look at these patients that are from 2 years ago or within the last 2 years. And we'll simply create that condition, drop down those criteria, and then we'll be all set. But maybe we want to go a step further. Maybe we want to add an exclusion criteria. Maybe we want patients that are not taking cromolyn sodium. And we're trying to find a very specific subset of patients. We search the term, we add it, as you can see here. And when we run this query, Trinetics will account for all of these factors. And in seconds, it tells us that we have 2,070 patients. So let's take it to the next step. Let's explore the cohort. Let's learn more about these 2,070 patients. We simply run this function, and we can look at a demographic breakdown of all the patients, the gender distribution, the ethnicity, the race. But let's look at diagnoses. Maybe we want to find comorbidities and see what other factors are affecting these patients. We can do that as well. Procedures, if we want to look at procedures that these patients have had, we can see what percentage of the cohort have had all of these common procedures to that cohort. Medications, we can do the same. We can even break it down. So if we want to look at medications that are respiratory tract medications, and specifically anti-asthma and bronchodilators, we can do that, and Trinetics will break all of that down. Same with labs. We can look at a variety of lab values related to this cohort and look at distributions, means, min, max. We can do all that. But say we want to know how many patients are going to be coming in. We can run this tool here, the rate of arrival tool, and look at how many patients have come in the past and how many patients are predicted to come in the next year. And so Trinetics uses a regression analysis to do that. So it's a very powerful tool, and you can see within just a minute or two here, we've run this query and found out so much information about these patients. You can even take it a step further. We don't have time for that today, but you can do treatment pathways. You can look at patients from around the world to kind of verify your results that you're seeing or look at them regionally. So it's a tremendously, tremendously powerful tool and very simple to use, as you can see. One of the things we're most excited about is a new project that we co-founded called the Pediatric Collaboratory Network. So we, along with a few other institutions, Children's Health System of Texas, West Virginia University Medicine Children's Hospital, and Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, have banded together to create a sub-network within Trinetics so we can more easily identify pediatric cohorts. And this will be tremendously helpful because it'll save you as an investigator or researcher time, so you don't have to filter through all of the other patients. You're looking at just the pediatric patients. And so this is a growing network. It's just gone live. And we've also got great feedback from other children's hospitals from around the country that are excited to join the network as well. So we'll be hearing more about this, and we're very excited for it. So moving on to some of our other data enclaves and access to data that we have, we are partnered and have joined the National COVID Cohort Collaborative, or N3C. And this is a major NIH initiative to create the largest COVID data set in the United States. Currently, there's 72 institutions that are participating in this, and those institutions are providing their EHR data, de-identified, of course, so that researchers around the world can have access to it and can start to help us tackle the issue with COVID. We can learn more about it together than we can apart and siloed. As you can see, there's 12.6 million total patients within N3C, which is tremendous. There's also 4.5 million COVID-19 positive patients. So we have a tremendous amount of data that we have access to. 14.5 billion rows of data, which is just, it's mind-boggling how much data that is. And there have been over 347 approved projects that have occurred through this partnership with N3C. So not only is it giving us this great access to data, such as demographics, symptomology, lab results, procedures, it even includes SARS-1, MERS, and H1N1 data if you're doing comparative studies, but it also kind of serves to be a collaborative effort where we can connect with other investigators, other institutions that are doing COVID research, and we can work with them on collaborative projects. I mean, this is really transformational. It's groundbreaking, and it's been really helpful to us, both at Children's National and GW. If I'm not mistaken, we actually just published a paper. I believe it's Dr. Keith Crandall and the team at GW just published a paper from the efforts of N3C and the work that they've done through that, the data that they've accessed with it. So it's been really helpful to us. And the best part of it is that it's really a robust, harmonized, and secure platform. Everything is within the N3C ecosystem, and you can log in, you can get access, and you can look at that tremendous amount of data. Because the data is harmonized, it's much more seamless and it's easier to work with. Oftentimes, as I mentioned, we're very siloed, and not every institution uses the same EHR system, and then some have custom EHR systems. NIH has gone out of its way to really make sure the data is harmonized, so it's useful to everyone. And then there's also powerful analytics capabilities embedded within N3C. So if you want to do data analysis within the ecosystem, you can do that. So it's really tremendously powerful and really helpful. Along with N3C, NIH has also developed the All of Us Research Hub, which is actually one of the largest biomedical data resources in the world. And it's volunteer-based. People volunteer to provide their data, be it EHR data or data from biometrics, such as, Apple Watches and Fitbits and things of that nature, but also survey data. So people can volunteer their data, they can work within NIH All of Us, and they can become part of helping make this data available for researchers all across the country. There's a tremendous amount of data types. So you have different conditions, procedures, medications, drug exposure data, labs, genomics, which is really important. It's cutting edge of research. and also the biometric data and the survey data that I mentioned before, and all of that is combined. There's over 4,820 participants that are taking part, and that grows every day. There's over 291,000 electronic health records that are involved with NIH All of Us. And then I mentioned the genomics and the biosamples and the biological data. They have over 353,000 biosamples that they've received from the participants in All of Us. So it's really a tremendous effort. It's really helpful to investigators, but also it's helpful to a lot of people in the community who feel that they want to contribute to research but aren't sure how. Maybe they weren't able to engage with their local institution, but through this program, they're able to share that data. Just like N3C, NIH All of Us also has a researcher workbench, which is a cloud-based platform where all of this data resides, but it also has those powerful tools to help you with data analysis and with collaboration. So you can really do everything in the same environment. You don't have to go from this tool to that tool to this tool and go all over the place. You have a lot of it at your disposal right within reach. So it's tremendously helpful, and we're very excited about this. This also is available both at Children's National and GW. We have signed the necessary agreements, and we're part of it. So we're really excited about it. So moving on, I'm actually going to invite a special guest, Dr. Lisa Gay Woodford, our director of the CTSICN, to present on PEadsnet, which is another fascinating new resource that we have available. Lisa, are you on the line there?
I am, Duran. Thanks so much. So thank you. This was a terrific, as you always do, terrific overview of our various resources, and your depth of knowledge and your enthusiasm for the infrastructure support that the CTSI-CN can provide always comes through in a shining way. So thank you for your presentation thus far. I did want to talk a little bit about Peacenet. Peacenet is our newest entree into the big data domain. Just by way of background, in 2014, the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, or PCORI, launched PCORNet, which is the National Patient-Centered Clinical Research Network. And the vision of PCORNet is to create a network of networks composed of interconnected research infrastructures to enable large-scale studies to be conducted faster, better, and cheaper. And so this really is a way to do both hypothesis generation and hypothesis testing in an electronic environment, so that you don't have to be, for the kinds of studies that you do in Peacenet, actually recruiting patients, because their data have already been recruited to this network, if you will. This Peadsnet, as a component of PCORNet, was launched with funding from PCORI in about 2013, 2014. And the it is a pediatric learning health system. So it's a community of hospitals, healthcare organizations, researchers, clinicians, patients, and families that work together to address some of the most important research questions related to childhood issues and healthy development. And if I could see the next slide, please. So as a result of the way Peadsnet has been set up, and the institutions that are participating in the Peadsnet network are shown on the right-hand side of the slide. We joined Peadsnet in November of 2022, so we are among the newest. I would tell you that within the last couple of months, Baylor has joined, Lurie Children's has joined, the Riley Hospital in Indiana has joined. And so this is a growing network, and it's growing because its success has allowed it to have now multiple streams of support that has moved it to be sort of a semi-autonomous kind of network. In Peacenet, Children's will be a key player in setting the national agenda of healthcare and health services research. As I mentioned, most of the leading freestanding children's hospitals with strong research members are members, or this is in process, will benefit from access to both Peadsnet data and the staff support. And one of the things I want to punctuate that Joanne said is, when we take our large data sets and we want to share them, that has to be done in a standardized way so data can be harmonized. Those kinds of ETL processes, ETL standing for extract, transform, and load, have guidelines. And you have to be familiar with that so you can do it fastly. By becoming a member of PEadsnet right out of the box, our whole familiarity with the ETL processes, with standard frameworks like OMOP as the standard framework for how we can export our data and share our data, those are things that we're becoming really now quite good at. PEedsnet participation will also provide an opportunity for us in terms of understanding the flow of data. So all of the security issues, and we are in the process right now, because we are part of a PEedsnet study looking at post-COVID sequelae in children, that really is requiring our institution to think very carefully about the legal issues, the compliance issues, the IT security issues, and even the PR and marketing issues. And by doing this, we're creating a learning framework where when the next study and the next set of studies come along, we'll be much more acquainted with this, much more facile, so we can move quickly to deciding, yes, we want to participate and it's a go, or no, for this study, we're not going to participate. But the limiting issue is going to be our interest, not our ability. And the CTSI-CN is playing a critical role in getting this off the ground in partnership with CNRI. Now, I want to just also, with your indulgence, please, Joanne, talk about another initiative, that this is a partnership between the Center for Translational Research and the CTSI-CN. We have heard over and over again from our center members and more broadly from people contacting the CTSI-CN that a limitation to doing a lot of research studies is having healthy controls. Where can I get healthy controls? And it would be, I think, a really useful resource to have a cohort of healthy controls that were research ready. And so that's what we set out to establish. And we want this cohort to represent the demographic composition of the DMV area, so the District, Maryland, and Virginia. We ostensibly organize this as 5 sub-cohorts, so 0 to 1, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 14, and 14 to 18. But in an opportunistic way, with our becoming engaged with Pfizer in their phase 2-3 study of the COVID vaccine in children under 12, we actually got a jump start because there were over 250 people who registered their ostensibly, quote, normal children to participate in that study. And in discussions with Bud Wiedemann, who spearheaded our vaccine trial effort, and with guidance by our IRB, we've transitioned those registrants into our normal cohort study. We're continuing to recruit via the Children's National website. The first of those links shown under access gives you the access to the website and a description of this study. So in the interest of time, I won't belabor it. To get access, you need IRB approval. Joanne talked about Protocol Builder. Joanne and others can help with putting this as a caveat into your initial IRB approval. Joanne and Beth Tarini can help with this as an amendment to an existing protocol. For example, Deepa Rastogi has been one of our beta testers and has made her way through the cohort according to a very prescribed set of guidelines that allows her to access this cohort and identify patients that or participants that would be normal cohort for some of her asthma studies. There is a prescribed guideline about how often we can contact these healthy cohorts, and that guidance is provided through a Redcap tool. If you have questions about this cohort overall, obviously you can talk with our navigator, who is Jasmine Jabber. Jasmine is a fantastic research coordinator. Beth and I certainly are available as well. Thank you, Joanne. Oh, and this is just our flyer that we continue to look for healthy volunteers. And the QR code takes you to that website that's listed on this slide at the bottom, but also was listed on the previous slide. And the final thing that I wanted to discuss was our special interest group. And this really is from the Center for Translational Research. But, you know, the Center for Translational Research obviously works very closely with the CTSI-CN. And what our special interest groups are a set of subgroups that are organized as collaborative hubs for defined areas of research focus within the center. And right now, our SIGs include behavioral medicine research, bioenergetics, interprofessional education, global health, health disparities, palliative and end-of-life care and research, and social determinants of health. And these are vibrant, living organizations. We provide support for them for administrative considerations and also to bring in external visiting professors. We have a whole sort of set of guidelines of how you stand up, sustain a SIG, and when you think about sundowning it, because maybe interests have transitioned or a SIG itself is transitioning from what it ostensibly started as to a new area of focus because of the sort of the vitality of science that raised new opportunities. So again, for those of you who are interested in some of these areas, or even interested in standing up a special interest group that involves folks in our environment, or even folks that are extramural folks. For example, Pam Hines runs the palliative and end-of-life care research, and it's a very big SIG. Most of the members actually are not members, are not faculty at Children's National. And so what we're trying to do is to get a cohort of people with a common interest to sort of think about science questions, hypotheses, that they want to generate and test, and grants that they want to pursue, and publications that they want to write. And I think that's all I have to say about that. So I'll let you take it away, Duran.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gay Woodford. That's just tremendously exciting, and I think that'll be tremendously helpful, these initiatives, to our investigators at both Children's and GW. So we've talked about many resources that we offer, many tools that can really help support your research. But the next question you may have is, well, how do I engage with them? How do I get access? How can I learn about them? Who can I go to teach me more about these tools and that they'll be helpful from the type of research I'm conducting? And that's where our research navigators come in. The CTSI-CN has a number of research navigators with a variety of domain expertise that can help you in all of the areas of your research. Really the research life cycle that I mentioned before, we have folks that can really help you find resources and support and guidance in all of those areas. And reaching out to us is as simple as emailing us at the CTSI Navigator at childrensnational.org email address, which goes to that team and that group where we'll be able to address your question, connect with you directly. Oftentimes we like to have consultations so that we can talk to you about your challenges that you're experiencing or the resources that you want to learn about, and really get you connected. We never want to leave you hanging. We are your research support center, and we want to be here for you. In addition, we can be reached through our website, www.ctsicn.org. Again, that's www.ctsicn.org, where you can find out about all of these resources, all of these tools. You can find out how to contact us. You can find out other things we're working on. You can find out about events, lectures, seminars, and so forth, and things that are coming down the pike for us and that we're working on. You can even sign up for our newsletter so that I believe it's every 2 weeks, you'll get one email, just one. We don't want to bombard your mailbox. You get one email that outlines all the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks and all of the events and all the things you can engage with to help you with your research. You can also find us on socials, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube as well. And I don't have a slide for this, but I do want to highlight a new feature that we have that you can find on our website called the Virtual Organizer. And the Virtual Organizer is really a one-stop shop for all of the types of resources that you need to conduct research. It's an environment that literally puts all of the information that we have about our resources and tools, and also provides substantial guidance. So if there's documents related to our grants enhancement program and what's needed to take part in that, or documents related to IRB approvals and amendments that are necessary for the tools that we support, all of that can be found there. And it's meant to be a living, functional environment. So it's always moving, it's constantly changing. We're always adding new things. And if there's resources that you're not seeing there, we're happy to learn from you and see what you want to see on there. So if there's things that could help you, please feel free to reach out to us, let us know, and we'll start to implement some of those things. There's also a chat function on there. So if you need quick support, or if you have a question about something you see on the VO, the Virtual Organizer, or on our website, you just go to that chat function. It will go directly to one of our research navigators who will be able to help you and connect you with whatever you need. So with that, we do have a few minutes left. I wanted to open the floor for questions. If you have questions about the tools that we discussed today, questions about the CTSI-CN in general and what we can do to help support you, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can utilize the chat function.
So Joanne, I just wanted to follow up on your comments about N3C and All of Us. So N3C requires that you get a domain, that you get a login, and that research is conducted in the context of domains. At Children's and at GW, we have a number of people who have signed up for logins. But we have, aside from Keith's group, very few people who are actually actively involved in domains, asking questions, generating hypotheses, and testing hypotheses. And the CTSI-CN can help with that. So if folks are interested, that certainly is something that we can help with. The second thing is All of Us. All of Us is designed to collect demographic, clinical data, and as you mentioned, biosamples across the US population. But right now it's confined to adults. We don't have a child component of All of Us. We are all set up, teed up, and ready to go when that's completely sorted out. But you know, and we can certainly, both at Children's and GW, participate in this and use this incredible resource, cloud-based resource. But the registrants right now are exclusively people over 18 years of age, 18 years of age and older. And I think there's some questions in the chat, so I'll leave those to you, Duran.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gay Woodford. So we do have a question in the chat. The question is from Kathy Toma, who asks, can you explain more about the Collaborators tool or Collaborators list? So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the CTSI-CN is engaged with a number of collaborators, both internally and also externally. So if you need collaborators for your research, if you have questions about how to engage with different departments, such as grants and contracts, OPHS, we are very well connected to them and can help you with that. Same at GW. If you are looking for collaborators, other investigators that are conducting research that's similar to yours that you may want to work with, we also have some tools to support that. We do have a tool that is evolving called CTSI-CN Profiles, where you can learn about different collaborators, but we also can connect you directly. We work with many investigators, and since we've been in business since 2010, we've engaged with hundreds, if not thousands, of investigators all across Children's and GW. So we can work to help connect you to them. I also mentioned that we have connections to external investigators through tools like Trinetics and that Pediatric Collaborative Network that we are designing, and that's gone into effect. So if you want to leverage that, we can help connect you to those investigators at Children's Health Texas, at West Virginia University, at Johns Hopkins All Children's, and we expect that to grow tremendously. We have a lot of interest from other investigators at other pediatric institutions. And then also, if you're doing multi-site research, another valuable resource that may help you is our connection to the Trial Innovation Network, which is an NIH National Center for Advancing Translational Science program that helps us with multi-site research. It engages us with those other 55 CTSA hubs around the country so that we can actually expedite multi-site research. So if you're looking for external collaborators, we're more than happy to help work with you to connect to them as well. Are there any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can type it into the chat. Give it 1 minute. So again, while we're waiting for questions, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, Joanne Wilson. You can find me in the directory, or you can reach out to the CTSI-CN Navigator email address. We're happy to field your questions there as well. And doesn't appear that any questions have come in. So I just want to thank you all for attending today. Thank you so much for learning about the CTSI-CN. Thank you so much for learning about the tools that we support and that we offer. And keep in mind that this is really just the tip of the iceberg. So these are some of the tools that we offer, some of the resources that we have, but there are so many more. I encourage you to visit our website. I encourage you to connect with us, and we're happy to meet with you to share how we may help your research endeavors. And not just with one tool, but when you meet with us to ask questions about one tool, we're often thinking about other ways in which we can support you. And we'll also bring into the conversation other things that may be able to help you, other folks that may be able to help you, so we can address those barriers to research and we can really help accelerate your research. So I just want to thank everybody, barring any last minute questions, which I don't see in the chat. I just want to thank you all and have a great rest of your research, education, and innovation week. Thank you so much.